So let's talk about this war because, folks, we are in fact at war. You know, look, history, people say history is repeating itself. I beg to differ. One of the things that happens in our society, a society that no longer treats geography as it should, a society that doesn't teach government as it should, a society that doesn't teach civics as it should. We get into a whole lot of problems because the population at large don't understand the severity of what we do overseas. I remember when I was back in school in Panama, how we learned the world, right? Of course, the United States was in a bipolar superpower system. Of course, there's just United States and then what was known as the Soviet Union. Of course, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. We learned and they made sure that we understood not only the United States, but how it was structured, the Soviet Union, and how it was structured. And then, of course, we had to learn about every single country in the world. That's what our history and geography looked like. And what it did is it made sure that we had a rounded view of the entire world and we understood the different cultures and we understood, while we may not have been connoisseurs of World War II then, we learned these issues. So we understood it. But now I think that the prototypical way to think of where we are as a country as far as the respect that we give the rest of the world. And I hate to give Tucker Carlson kudos, but I must, is what Tucker Carlson did to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a renowned senator, a very intelligent guy. Let's not doubt that because we don't like a person, they're not intelligent. Ted Cruz is a very intelligent man, no doubt whatsoever. Ted Cruz went to some of our best schools, no doubt about it. But at the same time, with all that knowledge, with being a darn good, I think he's a lawyer, what he does, his ignorance about Iran says much about what manufactured ignorance. This is deeper than any form of the ignorance there is. But the fact that he knew so little about the country he was supporting to be bombed, attacked, the little he knew about it says much. The fact that when we talk about Iraq and Iran, that most people believe that they are similar. Most people believe that, in as much as Iraq went bad, there still weren't a lot of repercussions, etc. The difference in those two societies are huge. The history of Iran. If you want to know why Israel so want to take out Iran, and by the way, I am not a proponent of Iran. I want to get that off the top right away. I'm not someone who thinks Iran, from a democratic point of view, is at some good power or that it is nice. I don't give a damn about any of that. That's not the issue. Let's be honest right here. If we look at who's killing people around the world, who's killing women and children, who are doing all these things we so fear Iran is going to do around the world, it's not Iran doing that. It's not China doing that. If we are measuring the goodness of a nation in the amount of people it has killed or has the propensity to kill, Iran is far down the list. And you can say, but don't they effect terrorist attack with Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and all of that? Possibly. Let's look at all the killings of Hamas, Hezbollah. And by the way, this is not condoning. Killing of another human being is evil, especially when it's about civilians and not about war. But let's look at the body count to determine who is evil, who's not, who has a propensity to kill, who's not. Let's not put on the colored glasses that if you're listening to Morning Joe right now, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon that says, oh, this was a successful mission. And some people, even because everybody wants to win, they're jumping on this bandwagon. But I could probably bet a fingernail that we've spent over $1 billion on this exercise to put bombs in holes that probably didn't destroy an ounce of that enriched uranium. When you think you are so damn smart, when you underestimate the adversary, you do stupid things like we did in Iraq. 4,000 something Americans died, 32,000 maimed American soldiers, I mean. So a total of over 40,000 people whose lives have changed forever. But more importantly as well, 500,000 innocent Iraqis died. Again, body count, death, destruction, migrating this to Gaza. What country is maiming and causing the death, killing, and destruction of more people? Iran, Israel, the United States, Russia, China. We take a look at the body counts right now. We're looking at Russia, Israel, and the United States. Don't take my word for it. Go look up the body counts and include all terrorism occurring around the world. You have to look at things through your own eyes, not what people are telling you to think or believe. So that's the first concept, body count. Look at body count. Just by ourselves, in 1989, to get one person, we killed 10,000 Panamanians, the place where I'm from. Counts for others many times don't matter, but the blowback from said body count put all American lives in danger. For those who want to sing glory, glory, hallelujah, because bombs hit many areas in the mountainous desert in Iran, and no American airplane, thankfully, got shot down. Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. But the truth of the matter is the blowback is a lot. It's likely not going to get a lot of American soldiers killed because Iran knows, you know what? When you came in here, there were probably 20 to 40 Israelis with the missile attacks that actually lost their lives right now. But several hundred Iranians have already lost their lives for the preemptive war, the war that Israel started in Iran. And then we all talk about the reason we're doing this is because Iran may get a bomb. Well, look, I don't believe in nuclear bombs. I think all countries should get rid of all their nuclear bombs. There's nothing good that comes out of a nuclear bomb. But in a world with nuclear bombs, the one thing that we know, if you don't want to be messed with, develop a few nuclear bombs, develop the technology to launch those nuclear bombs, and people leave you the hell alone. Ask Kim Jong-il of North Korea, the pariah state that we talk about. But you know what? The man developed a bomb, showed that it worked. He tested ballistic missiles to show that they knew how to do it. He never has to worry about launching that ballistic missile. He never has to worry about using that bomb. Why? Because we don't know where it would go. One may look at Iran and say, look, Israel, with the backing of the great power of the United States, has purportedly between 80 and 400 nuclear bombs. Nobody's talking about that. Israel never signed a non-proliferation treaty. Nobody's talking about that. Israel don't allow people to come and inspect the nuclear bombs. Nobody's talking about that. The aggressor in the Middle East, the only country that has killed hundreds of thousands of people over the last 2 decades, is not one of these countries we are calling the evil folk. This has nothing to do with Jews. This has everything to do with Israel, a country. Tucker Carlson said it best when Cruz said, well, the Bible commands us to go ahead and attack Israel's enemies. And Tucker Carlson said, I read the Bible too. Are you talking about the Israeli government? Or are you talking about Israel, the people of Israel? Not a location, but a people. And Ted Cruz looked like a mumbling buffoon as he answered that question. A mainstream media that is out there, not enlightening you, but making you dumb. A mainstream media that it's not only making it dumb, it disrespects you by not pointing out the differences between Iran and Iraq, a very advanced society. If anybody doubt these guys, whether these guys can build a bomb already, I always thought it was comical, right? Because here everybody's talking about Fordo. That's a big, deep, a half a mile deep bunker where it resides, centrifuges, etc. Let me tell you a dirty little secret. Look, I am just a common engineer out there. That's all I know. But I tell you what, you don't have to put all these centrifuges in safe locations, deep under the rocks in the mountains of Iran. You can put those bomb things anywhere. You can put a couple of centrifuges on farm number 1, put another 2 centrifuges on farm number 2, put another centrifuge on farm number 3, put a lab on farm number 4. If you think that the Iranians, knowing that everybody is looking straight down at Fordo and the other nuclear areas. Do you honestly think that they're just going to allow themselves to be sitting ducks to the United States mega 30-ton bomb? Do you really think that? So we launched likely $1 billion mission to Iran, and we put 14 bunker buster 30,000 pound bombs. I don't even know how much it costs. Bernie Sanders is up in arms, and justifiably so. Bernie Sanders says, from an article in Common Dreams, while the number of statements by member of Congress in the wake of U.S. President Donald Trump's bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities focus largely on the fact that the White House acted without congressional authorization, a constitutional violation, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders expressed anger over another aspect of unilateral military action, the lies that the Trump administration is telling the public to justify the bombing. And I shouldn't really have to say this, but in these times where people like to throw out anti-Semitism for anybody who dissents to the genocidal Netanyahu and his IDF, brother Bernie Sanders is our Jewish brother. He understands what he's saying here. Nobody can accuse him of anti-Semitism. My Jewish friends have given me carte blanche to say the things that I say, but I still, because this is not a Jewish thing. This is a genocidal Israeli government that's doing these things with the support of a president of the United States. The White House act of war against Iran, said the Vermont Independent Senator, was just the latest in a long line of military boondoggles that followed lies powerful politicians told about the threats posed by foreign countries before taking action that ultimately killed millions of people while doing nothing to protect the United States' security. In the 1960s, the United States government lied to the American people and took us into a terrible war in Vietnam. Sanders said that result of that war was that 58,000 young Americans died and many more came back wounded, both in mind and in spirit. Millions of Vietnamese were also killed. Decades later, America were told by then President George W. Bush that the U.S. must act quickly to stop Iraq from building weapons of mass destruction, with U.S. officials following the guidance of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The United States invaded Iraq and became embroiled in a long civil war there. No weapons of mass destruction were ever found. That war was based on a lie which cost us 4,492 young Americans, 32,000 wounded, over 500,000 Iraqis, and trillions of dollars, said Sanders. The American people are being lied to again, he added. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. U.S. intelligence agencies have assessed that Iran is not attempting to build a nuclear weapon, with its enriched uranium stockpiles backing up repeated statements from Iranian officials who said that the country's nuclear program is used only for peaceful civilian purposes. Look, they probably don't need to build a bomb, but they probably want to make sure they have all the pieces together. This is me saying this because I think it's in their national interest to be able to protect themselves, right? You know how to do it, and if you have to do it, you do it, you know? Sanders' statement came several hours after he learned, while speaking at a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that Trump had bombed Iran, authorizing strikes on 3 nuclear facilities, which Iranian officials condemn as a violation of international law, which it is. Suppose Iran said, well, we fear the United States is going to use an atomic bomb on us. So we preemptively go to New Mexico and we go to Tennessee and we go to all these different areas where our nuclear industry enriches, manufactures, remanufactures nuclear weapons. Would they be in their rights to say that? After all, they could go out there and for their justification, they could say, wait a minute, Israel preemptively attack Iran with the United States because they think Iran is building a bomb, and they think if Iran developed a bomb, they would use it. They didn't say they would preemptively use it. They said they would use it. Well, if some other country were to say, well, we see the Americans continue to have a large stockpile of atomic bomb, nuclear bombs, they don't have to say, we think they will use that nuclear weapon, because we know that the United States used the nuclear weapon before on human beings. And they use it under the pretext that we are using this bomb so that hundreds of thousands of Americans don't have to die fighting the Japanese in World War II. That's why we're using this bomb, to save American lives. Well, let me see. If some other country says we are using this bomb to save our lives because we know, and we don't only think, we know that the country, the United States, is willing to use the bomb if they believe that it'll save American lives. I want folks to start thinking why peace is so important, why honesty is so important, and why it is that in America we don't want people critically thinking. Because if we start to think critically, 4% of the population we are, there are a lot more people out there that aren't us. If we start to think critically, we will actually see and come to one particular conclusion. Peace is a lot more advantageous, and your society can move a lot further if you're doing peaceful things. I'm going to end this soliloquy with a few notions here. Important notions. I want you to think about all the things we have been doing around the world. And let's start now and move backwards. One of the things the rest of the world sees is we have cut USAID. For some reason, we think that we are the country that is the only country helping other people around the world. We're not, right? But the one thing that we could show, our farmers are saving the world. Our farmers are doing great things. Our American ingenuity is doing good around the world. USAID was a part of that. And what did we do? We just about canceled USAID. You can look at the last big events that we've done around the world have been to intervene. Since 1989, invasion of Panama killed a lot of people. The boycott of Venezuela, boycott of Cuba, the events that we do in Africa that nobody knows about, Burkina Faso and all these other countries. We don't hear about it because our media doesn't tell us about it. We are not seen as that country to go look at, to have an investment in, because we only invest if we can see that our capitalists make a bunch of money by doing something in country X, Y, or Z. And there are countries using other models and showing that for some reason, as opposed to us doing the right thing, because if we did the right thing, how great it would be. Instead, we're making the country that has the most goodwill around the world right now be a country building roads and bridges. And yeah, believe me, they know what they're doing. They're building ports. And if you go to their major cities in their own country, how they're flourishing, how they're integrating with other countries, I can tell you firsthand in Panama, right? While we are bombing, China is building. Who do you think is going to generate the goodwill of people? Look, democracy, I love democracy. I adore democracy, but what we are doing around the world ain't democracy. In fact, what we are doing in our country right now ain't democracy. Keeping a people uninformed ain't democracy. Having a people picking up the worst out of people by promoting sexism, racism, homophobia, xenophobia, that ain't democracy. We have a lot to atone for, and we have some of the worst leaders in the world. We are blessed to have so much, both in natural resources, inbound, ingrown, and what we do and what we are doing is squandering it when we could be the flower of the world.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.